What if your own mother treated you like a servant, just because you didn't fit into society's twisted standard of beauty? Welcome to the ultimate toxic household, where 5 sisters are pitted against each other in a desperate race for wealth and status. But while 4 of them were groomed to be perfect high-society wives, the 5th one was hidden away in the shadows, labeled as the family's greatest embarrassment. This is the story of Mary Bennet, a girl kept like an invisible ghost under her own roof, because her mother believed that a plain girl in glasses was fundamentally unworthy of love. But when the family fortune was threatened, that same toxic mother wove a web of lies, fake illnesses, and scandalous propositions to bargain her daughter away. But they all forgot one thing. The spark they tried to crush beneath their feet was the very same spark that would burn high society's rulebook to ashes. What exactly happened on a stormy night in London that transformed this broken shadow into the most captivating, powerful woman in the room? And how did this invisible daughter flip the script on a game of psychological cruelty? Every single second of this story will give you goosebumps. Imagine walking into a room and realizing that to the very person who gave you life, you are completely invisible. For Mary Bennet, this wasn't just a passing childhood insecurity. It was a brutal, everyday reality. In the suffocating atmosphere of the Bennet household, her intelligence, her deep thoughts, and her rich inner world meant absolutely nothing. Her mother, Mrs. Bennet, was a woman driven by a frantic, singular obsession, marrying off her 5 daughters to wealthy, powerful, high-status men. And in her eyes, Mary was the broken link in the family chain. While Mary's sisters effortlessly fit the glamorous mold society demanded, Mary was always the outcast. The eldest, Jane, was strikingly beautiful and pure-hearted. Lizzie possessed a sharp wit, quick humor, and undeniable confidence. Kitty carried a playful, infectious smile, and the youngest, Lydia, was a whirlwind of untamed, flirtatious energy. Mary had none of that. She was always the different one, left behind in the dark. This emotional canyon fractured completely one afternoon when Mary accidentally overheard her mother talking to a close friend. Mrs. Bennet shamelessly complained that Mary's face was always flushed, that her skin wasn't as fair as her sister's, and callously stated she would be perfectly satisfied if she could just marry off the other 4, hoping only that Mary wouldn't ruin their chances. Those toxic words shattered Mary from the inside out. Her self-esteem was so deeply damaged that she stopped looking in the mirror entirely. During this time, late-night reading began to take a toll on her eyesight. Desperate for a temporary escape, she visited an eye specialist, Mr. Sparrow. When he fitted her with a new pair of glasses, a look of genuine admiration crossed his face. He gently told her, "You look beautiful in glasses." But Mary's confidence was so utterly destroyed that she instantly dismissed it as a cruel joke, hearing only her mother's mocking voice in her head. Little did she know, those glasses would eventually become the symbol of her ultimate power. Not long after, a thrilling rumor swept through the countryside. A wildly wealthy, high-society bachelor named Mr. Bingley had leased a massive nearby estate. The news pushed Mrs. Bennet's desperation to the brink of madness. She burst into the room and demanded that all 5 daughters attend the upcoming grand ball at Meryton, refusing to let a man of that caliber be stolen by someone else. But to her mother, Mary wasn't an eligible bachelorette. She was unpaid help, expected to carry coats, fetch drinks, and cater to her sisters' every whim. Only the family maid, Hill, noticed the quiet longing and deep pain hidden behind Mary's stoic expression. Hill approached her with genuine warmth, helped her style a dress, and gave her a vital truth. Just because you stand in the shadow of your sisters doesn't mean you lack a light of your own. Armed with that fragile shard of confidence, Mary arrived at the ball. The hall was alive with music and elite guests. As Mary watched from the sidelines, Mr. Sparrow navigated the crowd, approached her, and politely asked her to dance. For one magical, fleeting moment, Mary felt like the heroine of the romance novels she loved. Her face lit up with pure joy, but the happiness was brutally cut short the moment Mrs. Bennet saw Mary laughing with the son of a tradesman. She lost her mind. She marched over, grabbed Mary by the arm, and publicly dragged her off the dance floor. Hissing in Mary's ear, she made it clear. If she couldn't attract a nobleman, the least she could do was not embarrass the family by getting close to someone socially inferior. Too terrified to rebel, Mary submitted. She walked up to Mr. Sparrow and coldly told him that they could no longer dance because he wasn't on her family's social level. The look of heartbreak on his face left Mary paralyzed with guilt. She had sacrificed a sincere man just to satisfy her mother's cruelty. That night, looking into the mirror, Mary made a vow. She was done living as a ghost. She isolated herself, burying her mind in books, desperately seeking the strength life had denied her. But fate was already preparing a new storm. The fragile peace shattered when a bizarre letter arrived from Mr. Collins. He was a distant cousin, and due to the strict inheritance laws of the time, he was set to inherit the entire Bennet estate upon their father's death. Terrified of being thrown out onto the streets, Mrs. Bennet decreed that Lizzie must marry this arrogant, clumsy clergyman to save the family. Lizzie was utterly repulsed by him. Seeing an opening, Mary's pragmatic friend, Charlotte Lucas, gave her a cynical piece of advice. "Mary, if you don't want to end up a servant in your own home, make Collins choose you. In this world, a woman either marries well or rots in poverty." Though Mary dreamed of a life dedicated to science, medicine, and knowledge, the sheer terror of becoming a destitute old maid pushed her to try. She attempted to engage Collins in intellectual conversation, trying to impress him with her knowledge, but his eyes remained glued to Lizzie's face. When Mary tried to speak up again, her mother sharply scolded her in front of everyone, snapping that she was embarrassing herself by competing with her sister. Desperate to prove her worth, Mary saw a final chance at the next weekend gala when Collins mentioned his love for music. She spent the entire week practicing the piano and singing, convinced this was her moment to shine. But when she stood before the judgmental eyes of high society, her nerves betrayed her. Her throat tightened, her confidence collapsed, and the performance turned into a public disaster. Hearing the muffled laughter and mocking smirks of the elite, she fled the room in tears. When Lizzie tried to comfort her afterward, Mary's suppressed resentment boiled over. She wept. "It's easy for you to offer sympathy, Lizzie. Everything comes effortlessly to you because you are beautiful. I have to fight for scraps from this society, and I still end up with nothing." Mary had no idea that this public humiliation was just the prologue. Her real test was waiting for her in London. The downward spiral accelerated when Lizzie flatly rejected Mr. Collins. In a fit of spiteful rage, Collins proposed to Charlotte instead, who accepted just to secure her own future. Mrs. Bennet blamed Mary for the disaster, cruelly declaring that no man would ever love a plain woman who wore glasses. Shortly after, tragedy struck. Their father passed away from a sudden heart attack. With their father gone, Mr. Collins promptly served the Bennet family a 2-week eviction notice. While her sisters arranged their futures, Mrs. Bennet viewed Mary as an inconvenient burden. She packed her off to London to stay with her brother and sister-in-law, aunt and uncle Gardiner, under the pretext of working as an unpaid nanny while their regular servant was away. Expecting another chapter of servitude, Mary was stunned by what she found in London. Aunt Gardiner welcomed her with open, unconditional affection, a warmth Mary had never experienced in her life. The next day, she met Tom Hayward, a handsome and incredibly charismatic family friend. Where Mary was rigid and academic, Tom was full of life, playing with the children and filling the room with laughter. Tom possessed a magnetic personality, and he immediately noticed Mary's quiet intelligence, gifting her a collection of rare poetry books. For the first time in her life, Mary smiled without asking for permission. One afternoon, Aunt Gardiner took Mary shopping for fabrics in the London market. Paralyzed by her mother's voice in her head, Mary froze, terrified of choosing a color that would look terrible on her. Aunt Gardiner gently placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "Mary, your mother isn't here. Choose the color that makes your soul happy." Mary selected a vibrant, beautiful fabric, and with that choice she began to rewrite her own script, but the happiness was short-lived. She soon discovered that Tom was arranged to marry a woman named Baxter, waiting only for financial stability. Heartbroken and lost, Mary Regulartext overheard her uncle telling her aunt one night, "Mrs. Bennet's toxic nature has damaged Mary's self-esteem so badly that she's afraid to trust anyone." Mary was shocked to realize her wounds were so visible. Just then, a letter arrived from home demanding her immediate return, because her mother's pet dog was sick. Mary prepared to run away from her heartbreak, but Aunt Gardner stopped her, sharing a story about a beautiful blue hat she had once lost, only to find a far better one later. "Give London a chance, Mary. Your story isn't over yet." Mary tore up the letter and chose to stay, determined to change her fate. Tom's fiancée, Baxter, turned out to be a highly perceptive and empathetic woman. She recognized Mary's hidden sorrow and extended a genuine hand of friendship. Baxter didn't try to change Mary with heavy makeup or fake behavior. Instead, she taught her how to carry her glasses and her brilliant intellect with absolute confidence. When the grandest ball of the London season arrived, Mary stepped into the hall and stopped everyone in their tracks. She took the dance floor with William Ryder, the wealthiest and most elusive bachelor in London, who was utterly captivated by her unique perspective. As Mary laughed and matched his wit, every eye in the room turned to her. Tom stood in a corner, watching with a flash of unmistakable jealousy and longing. Naturally, her success drew venom. Caroline Bingley, who had long been trying to capture William Ryder's attention, cornered Mary and publicly humiliated her, sneering, "Did you come to London to work as a nanny? Or are you hunting for a wealthy husband?" But Mary was no longer the fragile girl from Meryton. She looked Caroline dead in the eye and replied in a devastatingly calm tone, "Miss Caroline, your advice sounds suspiciously specific. Are you speaking from your own past field experience?" Caroline's face flushed with rage, and she marched away speechless, while William Ryder fell even harder for Mary's bold wit. The following week, William hosted a grand dinner at his estate. Wanting revenge, Caroline seated Mary next to the most boring, silent man in the room, who was only interested in his food. But Mary utilized her incredible communication skills, striking up a passionate conversation with the man about horse racing until he came alive with excitement. Watching this, both William and Tom were stunned. Caroline's plan had failed miserably. Furious, she cornered Mary after dinner, warning her that William was just using her as a toy, and that she wouldn't be able to handle the humiliation when he dropped her. Mary brushed off the threat, but right then, another letter arrived from the Bennet household that shattered her reality. The letter claimed that Mrs. Bennet was on her deathbed, fighting for her final breaths. Panic-stricken, Mary bolted from the room, accidentally colliding with and shattering a priceless, century-old vase belonging to William's father. Disoriented, she fled London without apologizing. But when she arrived at Longbourn after a grueling journey, she found her mother sitting comfortably on the sofa sipping tea while her sisters gossiped. The illness was nothing but a manipulative lie to drag Mary back into domestic servitude. Mrs. Bennet immediately confiscated her belongings and began insulting her appearance all over again. But the next day, William Ryder arrived at the estate in his luxury carriage. He didn't care about the broken vase. He had followed her out of love. Mrs. Bennet's eyes gleamed at the sight of such wealth, and she ordered Mary to accept his inevitable proposal. When William pulled Mary aside, he offered her a dream life in the valleys of Italy, dedicated to learning and science. But then came the catch. He regular text stated that marriage was an outdated social rule, proposing they live together without a legal commitment. Lizzie was outraged, warning Mary that this arrangement would ruin her reputation permanently. But Mary snapped back, defending the only man who had ever put her first. However, alone with her thoughts that night, Mary's self-respect crystallized. The next morning, she rejected William to his face, regular text stating, "I would rather be lonely with my dignity than be someone's temporary convenience." When Mrs. Bennet found out Mary had rejected a millionaire, her fury exploded. She threatened Mary with a lifetime of permanent servitude under her roof if she didn't write an apology letter. Mary looked her toxic mother in the eye and said, "I accept the servitude, but I will never barter away my self-respect." Unable to watch her sister suffer, Lizzie secretly wrote to Uncle Gardner, who arrived and swept Mary away on a therapeutic trip to the beautiful Lake District. Before leaving, Lizzie hugged Mary tightly, weeping, "Mary, I have always been proud to be your sister. You are the strongest one of us all." In the mountains, Mary discovered that Tom Hayward was also there, his engagement to Baxter having ended amicably. One evening, Tom took Mary on a serene boat ride, and just as he built up the courage to confess his love, a reckless William Ryder suddenly appeared on the shore and dove into the lake, flipping the boat and turning a romantic moment into a chaotic accident. The next morning, the group set out to trek up a steep mountain summit. Halfway up, Tom pulled Mary aside, his face pale. He admitted that William had threatened him. Regular texts stating his vast wealth could give Mary a life of luxury he could never match. Believing he was doing the noble thing, Tom told her they could never be together. Before Mary could process the heartbreak, a violent storm broke over the peak. William Ryder abandoned his brave front and fled down the mountain first, while Caroline Bingley tripped and became trapped beneath heavy, falling rocks. Tom screamed for Mary to run, but Mary refused to leave her enemy behind. Using every ounce of her strength, she helped Tom lift the heavy stone and rescued Caroline. Upon reaching the hotel, Mary collapsed from exhaustion and a severe fever, spending days on the brink of death. Tom wept outside her door every night, but the moment the doctor declared her out of danger, he vanished without saying goodbye. Mary returned to London, wiped away her tears, and permanently deleted the shadows of her past. She took a premium teaching position at an elite school, completely unafraid of society's whispers or the glasses on her face. When Mrs. Bennet stormed into the London house weeks later with a list of terrible suitors, Mary stood like a fortress. Looking her mother dead in the eye, she regular text stated, "I will not sacrifice my life to appease your social anxiety and greed. I am standing on my own 2 feet, and I am at peace with who I am." Defeated by her daughter's unshakable power, Mrs. Bennet packed her bags and walked out of her life forever. A few days later, Caroline Bingley visited Mary. The arrogance was gone from her eyes, replaced by genuine humility. She thanked Mary for saving her life on the mountain, and Mary subtly made it clear that William Ryder was a closed chapter, that she still loved Tom. Caroline listened silently and left. One bright evening, while Mary was walking through a beautiful London square, she found herself face to face with Tom Hayward. His eyes were filled with regret and profound love. Mary stepped forward, her voice firm, and said, "You had absolutely no right to make decisions for my life, Tom. I never wanted your wealth. I wanted you." Tom smiled, taking her hand in his. "Forgive me, Mary," Caroline wrote to me. She told me everything, and said that if I lost the woman who saved her life despite being her enemy, I would be the biggest fool in the world. Mary Bennet had spent her entire youth believing she was too plain to ever be loved or to rule someone's heart. But by refusing to break, by trusting her intellect and her inner worth, she completely flipped the script. She married Tom and built a home that wasn't measured by high society status, but filled with absolute freedom, mutual respect, and a love that burned brighter than any shadow.